Hey everyone, this is the Canyon Ultimate CF-SL8 Aero Limited. Oof, that's such a long name. But before we start this review, can we first take a moment to appreciate how good this bike looks? Honestly, I think this is one of my favorite looking bikes I've seen so far. And it just looks so aggressive, especially with this gray and black color combination and the deep section carbon wheels. It kind of reminds me of a matte gray Lamborghini Aventador, but in a bike version, you know? So yeah, what do you guys think of this bike? Let me know in the comment section below. So one more thing before we start our review, let's do a free hub sound check to see if it sounds as good as it looks. It's so good. I love it. Nice. All right, let's start. So this is Canyon's lightweight climbing bike, the Ultimate. And this bike right here is a size small, and for reference, I am 175 centimeters tall. So one thing to note is that Canyon's bikes are generally sized bigger. So this size small actually fits more like a medium for most other brands. So that's just something to know when choosing a size from Canyon. So the top tube on this bike is 54.3 centimeters. And as you can see, it's pretty much horizontal with a slight slant. So this bike will have a longer effective reach. So that's something to consider when choosing a bike from Canyon, is because you're only able to buy them online and you won't be able to try them out or see them in person before you buy. So hopefully this video helps you out when selecting a size. So once again, I am 175 centimeters tall and this is a size small. So next, let's talk about the style and design of this bike. Starting off with the frame color, this color is called True Gray, and I just love how it gives off this stealthy look. This gray and black combination really works, especially with these deep section carbon rims. Prior to seeing this bike, I used to really like a full black bike, but now after seeing this bike, I think I like this color combination a lot more. The gray and black creates a nice contrast and it just has this shadowy look to it. Really nice. This bike overall is very angular and sharp. In fact, my first impression of this bike is that it kind of reminds me of a BMC/Giant TCR. I say BMC because of this top tube over here. It's thin and horizontal, very flat. So yeah, it kind of reminds me of BMC's designs. And this part here where the top tube forms the rear triangle kind of reminds me of a Giant TCR. Both bikes have similar design styles where they don't have drop C-stays. Instead, they have a similar design over here where it's kind of like a drop C-stay. So yeah, that's just my takeaway on this bike. Overall, really nice looking bike, very angular, clean, and modern. I love how the logos and print are kept at a minimal on this bike. You have the Canyon logo here on the down tube on both the left and right side. And then on the top, you have the model number that says Ultimate CF-SL. And along the top tube, a really neat design feature, you have two stripes that run along the edges of the top tube. And as they come towards the seat, stay over here, they actually kind of fade out into a gray color. Really nice design, love the look of this bike. So now moving on to the group set of this bike. This bike has full Shimano Ultegra Di2 with hydraulic disc brakes. The crankset here at the front is a 52/36 and the cassette at the back is an 11/28, 11 speed. So yeah, this is the older generation now. So Canyon doesn't have an updated model with the 12 speed. So yeah, this is what we got. One thing to note is that this bike doesn't have a power meter included, which is actually very surprising given the spec level of this bike. And this is the limited version of the CF-SL8. There's another non-limited version of the same bike. It just has 50mm wheels instead of a 62, and that one has a power meter included. It's weird because the price difference between these two bikes is only by $100. So I think Canyon could have made this bike the same price and then included a power meter. So now you're kind of forced to choose between, hey, do I want the 50mm deep wheels with the power meter, or do I want the deeper section wheels, but I sacrifice the power meter? So it's kind of weird that you can't have both. Well, either way, if you do choose this one, it's very easy to just include a power meter afterwards, like what I have done here. I have a Stages single-sided power meter on the left side. Braking on this bike is really good thanks to the Shimano Ultegra 160mm rotors on the front and the back. So yeah, they stop really well. Wheels on this bike are the DT Swiss ARC 1400 die cut. ARC stands for Aero Road Carbon, and these wheels were released back in 2020, and they are made specifically for disc brakes. They feature a lot of the things that you would want on a modern wheel set. First off, the wheels come in 50, 62, and 80mm rim depths. This one here is a 62, and they feature a special rim profile that DT Swiss calls the VU rim profile. Basically, it is a hybrid combination of a V-shaped rim profile and a U-shaped rim profile. So according to DT Swiss, this unique VU rim profile will create as little turbulence as possible between the tire and the wheels to create more aerodynamic. Speaking of tire, the recommended tire width for this bike here is 25mm at the front and 28 at the back. Both these wheel sets have an internal width of 20mm, and so they're nice and wide, very stable. The transition from the tire to the wheel set is very seamless here at the front and at the back. The back has a slight bulge, but it doesn't bulge over the wheel set. So that's really nice, very aerodynamic. These wheels are tubeless ready and they have a hooked rim profile. But however, right now I have not set up tubeless on this bike. So right now it's running tubed, and the tires on this bike are the GP 5000s, 25mm in the front, 28mm in the back. During my testing of this bike, I found these wheel sets to handle really well. They cut through wind and are really fast. Crosswind wise, I didn't experience any strong crosswinds that I couldn't handle. So yeah, these wheels are really stable and they go really fast. One neat feature here is the through axle. So after you tighten the through axle, you can actually change the angle of the axle. So you just give it a tug over here, pull it out, and you can adjust the angle to set it whichever way you like. So moving on to the cockpit of this bike, this handlebar is Canyon's CP10 Aero handlebar. It's made out of carbon and it is a single piece. It's different from the one on the Aero where it has an adjustable width. This one is set with a 90mm reach and a 39mm width. Hey look, there's cables. Yeah, this carbon handlebar doesn't have fully internal routed cables. Instead, they're kind of tucked underneath the handlebar and they come out and then go into the bike. There's 3 cables over here, one for the rear brake, one for the front brake, and one for the Di2 wire. For me, I think it looks pretty neat. Honestly, I don't mind that it doesn't have internal cable routing. There's pros and cons to each setup. This one is easier for maintenance and it looks pretty clean, so I don't really mind. And it will only cost like a few watts anyway, so it's not that big of a difference. But yeah, some people do prefer a fully internal cable routed system. It's harder on maintenance and it looks much cleaner. But yeah, coming from the TCR, which also didn't have full internal cable routing, I don't really mind this. It looks pretty clean. You don't really notice the cables after a while. When riding, this handlebar is actually really comfortable. It's actually really stiff as well. When climbing out of the saddle, there's no flex or give to the handlebar, which is really nice. I also like how this part is pretty narrow, so I can rest my palms and hold on to it when I'm climbing up mountains. It's really comfortable, and I love how the transition from the bar to the tape is seamless as well. This tape part is grooved inwards so that when you wrap the tape, it's level with the bar. So really nice. And one thing to note about this bike is that the handlebars actually flare out by 3 degrees, so it helps with handling when you're in your drops. One thing that surprised me is that this computer mount is actually not included with the bike. This thing's extra and it costs around $49 Canadian. You can get it on Canyon's website, but surprisingly, this thing's made out of plastic. So like, it's kind of expensive, and honestly, it should just come with the bike and be made out of carbon. Finally, coming to the saddle and seat post, this saddle is a Stella Italia SLR, and it has a carbon base and manganese rails. Honestly, I found this saddle to be pretty comfortable, but I still like my Specialized Roman Evo. But this stock saddle that comes on this bike is pretty good. This seat post is made out of carbon and it has a round shape. I really like how each part on Canyon's bike has a unique name and it tells you the details of each part. So that's a really neat feature. Another neat feature on this bike that I really like is the clamp for the seat post. It's actually hidden right here on the rear triangle. So right here we have this rubber mount. You just remove it and then it will reveal the screw that you would use to screw and loosen the C-post so you can adjust it up and down. And then after you're done, just put the plug back in and it's nice and hidden away. Really nice design, I love it. Okay, we have it here at 7.85 kg. So at 7.85 kg, it's not considered super light, and especially for a lightweight climbing bike, 7.85 is actually on the heavier side. And I actually think that's mostly due to the deep section wheels. The 62mm carbon wheels does give it some weight. So that's something to consider. When I first rode it, it felt very foreign to me because my body is used to the TCR. So first impressions on this bike was that it accelerated slower and it was very stiff. So stiff as in every bump that I rode over, I would feel the bump. It was definitely less compliant than the TCR. And I think the slower acceleration and the bumpiness does come down to the wheel set as well. The deeper section wheels will be slower to accelerate, but they will be faster as you go. And because these ones aren't set up tubeless, I think that has to do with the compliance as well. So maybe once this bike is set up tubeless, I'll give it a ride again and then I'll let you guys know what I think about it. So comparing this bike to the TCR, I would give this bike points for its single piece carbon handlebar. Going up climbs and really out of the saddle, this handlebar has no flex, whereas the TCR has a bit of flex to it. And also for the wheel set, this wheel set is a lot more aero than the TCR. It's wider and it's faster. So yeah, definitely points for those. I would give the TCR points for being lighter and feeling more snappy. However, if I had to choose between this bike or the TCR, I would honestly choose this bike. One, because it looks so good, and two, this bike is a lot more aero. The wheels are better than the TCR, and overall, just a nicer finish to it. So yeah, definitely would choose this bike over the TCR. This bike retails at $6,200 Canadian, and for the price, it's actually a lot of value for the money, especially when compared to Trek or Specialized. A similar build from those brands will cost significantly more, almost around like $8,000 or $10,000. So yeah, at $6,200, this bike is a really good deal. If you're looking for a lightweight climbing bike with a lot of aero features, definitely check this bike out. There's two versions, like I said before. You have the deeper section wheel one without a power meter, or the 50mm one with a power meter. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. I reply to every single comment. And thank you guys for watching my video. Please, if you guys like this video, give me a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.